What could be better for an Iowa team struggling and currently clinging to a 500 record than a trip to the Horseshoe? We'll talk about the Buckeyes and the Hawkeyes in just a moment. But first, reminder, check out GoAscentNutrition.com. If you got a long work week ahead of you, you need to perk yourself up, get some coffee. It's mold and mycotoxin free, healthier than anything you're going to find on the shelves at your local grocery store. Visit GoAscentNutrition.com and use that code Hawkeyes. That's the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order. And check out some of Go Ascent Nutrition's great health products. By the way, Lance Shetler, owner of this company, is a former Hawkeye. So you're supporting this channel. You're supporting him as well. Also, Randy Engel, talked about him at length. He is still producing great artwork, Hawkeye artwork, authentic Hawkeye artwork. Visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook for more details. All righty. Well, Iowa, Ohio State, we've been waiting for this game. Well, you could say Buckeye fans have been waiting for this game for a while. We won't call it a grudge match because that would only add more fuel to the fire, perhaps. And do I really think Ohio State fans or players have had this game pegged? No. But Iowa hasn't played Ohio State since the 2017 game in which Iowa blew the doors off the Buckeyes inside Kinnick Stadium. This is a much different Ohio State team and a much different Iowa team. Although that Buckeye team was really good with JT Barrett, this team's got more weapons, and Iowa's offense has less. Let's break it down, first of all, by talking about Ohio State specifically. Now, I understand that their last opponent, Michigan State, you could call them a shell of themselves. Certainly not the team that went to the Peach Bowl last year. But this is still these are still some impressive numbers from Ohio State. The Buckeyes held the Spartans to 7 rushing yards on Saturday. Now, again, this is the previous Saturday. They had a bye week this past weekend, but put that in perspective. 7 rushing yards. This is a Michigan State team, granted, with Kenneth Walker last year that was prolific on the ground. Now, 7 of those 20 attempts for the Spartans came from Peyton Thorne. So sacks, again, are being accounted for here in the total rushing numbers, but 7 on 20 attempts. Michigan State got down. They were forced to throw the ball basically the entire game, and so that's a factor. Ohio State also moved the ball at will against the Spartans. And I know Michigan State's defense has never, under Mel Tucker, it's never been great. 614 total yards for the Buckeyes. Now, to put that in perspective, Iowa has played 3 Big Ten games. And in those 3 Big Ten games combined, Iowa has totaled 779 yards combined. Ohio State with 614 total yards against Michigan State alone. They also held the Spartans to 202 total yards for the game. Again, I understand Michigan State's not what they have been in the past, but those are impressive numbers for that Ohio State defense. Remember, they relieved their defensive coordinator of his duties last year, and ever since then, they have steadily improved on defense, and right now they're one of the best defenses in the country. They're number 2 in total offense, but number 5 in total defense. The talent that team has, we've known for quite a while that team was loaded on both sides of the ball, but they're proving it on both sides of the ball this year. Of course, Iowa number 7 in total defense, but if you compare those numbers, Ohio State has a better defense. Now, Iowa better in scoring defense, number 3 in the country. Ohio State number 10 in the country in scoring defense. But keep in mind, they've been blowing teams out, so at some point, your defense is going to give up some yardage. They're going to give up some points in garbage time. As I mentioned, Ohio State number 2 in total offense behind only Tennessee, who looked quite impressive in that miraculous win over Alabama this past weekend. But Ohio State number 1 in the country in scoring offense. Jackson Smith and Jigma, maybe their best weapon, hasn't even been on the field. Will he play against Iowa? We'll see. Mayan, their running back, could he be back? He's been missing time. But right now he leads the Buckeyes in rushing, which is impressive when you think about the fact that they've got Trevon Henderson and really just a deep arsenal of talented running backs. In fact, Ohio State's 4th-string running back has nearly as many yards as Iowa's 3rd-string running back, Gavin Williams. And OSU's 4th-stringer has a third of the carries that Gavin has. Almost 1,200 rushing yards combined for Ohio State's top 3 running backs, 13 touchdowns. Iowa, on the other hand, their top 3 running backs have accounted for 557 rushing yards and just 5 touchdowns. Do we want to look at quarterback? I know you don't. We're going to do so anyway. C.J. Stroud has thrown for over 1,730 yards on the season with a 71% completion percentage, 24 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. How about Spencer Petras? 939 yards. Stroud has nearly doubled Petrus' output. 54% completion percentage for Spencer, 2 passing touchdowns in the season, 3 interceptions. So quite a discrepancy there. And hate to say it, but not really surprised when you look at these teams. The eye test would tell you that these teams are eons apart in offense, obviously. I mentioned the output for the Ohio State offense against Michigan State. How about against a good defense? I know Wisconsin is not the defense that they have been, but these are still impressive numbers. 539 total yards against that Badger defense. The Buckeyes very impressive against some of the best competition defensively on their schedule thus far. Between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jackson Smith and Jigba, mentioned Mayan Williams. You look at a guy like Trevion Henderson. Stroud can do it with his feet if he needs to. How does Iowa stop this offensive attack? First of all, you don't, right? You don't stop the offensive attack. The question should be, how does Iowa find a way to win this game? Because you're not going to be able. You're just simply not going to hold Ohio State to 2 or even 300 total yards. If they hold them under 300 total yards, they got a good shot of winning this game, because that means something went horrifically wrong for that Ohio State offense. But here's how Iowa wins this game. And do I think it's likely? No. But here's how Iowa does it. Ohio State, in every game besides the Toledo game, let's throw that game out for a second, even though I know we can't. For the sake of this discussion, let's throw that Ohio State-Toledo game out. In the other 5 games, Ohio State's actually -1 in turnovers. Think about that. They have dominated teams. Dominated them, and yet they've lost the turnover battle collectively. They have not won the turnover battle in any game except the Toledo game, where they turned Toledo over twice. So the defense, as efficient as it's been, as good as it's been, they don't force a ton of turnovers, and the offense can turn the ball over at times, as good as the offense is. We know the pedigree the Iowa D comes in with, forcing turnovers, although they've slowed down in that regard here in recent weeks. I would think Phil Parker during this bye week, certainly he's a guy who's just going to stick to the fundamentals and what it means to play Iowa defense. So, they're not going to change a ton, but I would think that's got to be a point of emphasis this week. Let's get that ball out, as in forcing fumbles. You don't want to be jumping a ton of passing lanes and trying to take a bunch of shots, because they'll hit you on some double cuts. Riley Moss has been beat already this year. In fact, he's been the corner, right, to say that. But Cooper DeJean's been better deep down the field. We haven't seen teams attacking Cooper DeJean nearly as much as they've been attacking Riley Moss. I expect Terry Roberts to play. I would expect that. We'll see what Kirk Ferentz says on Tuesday. But if Terry Roberts is back, that will help them on the back end, especially if Smith and Jigba plays. But they've got depth up and down that wide receiving core, and certainly in the backfield as well. But again, can Iowa turn Ohio State over? I think the magic number is probably +3. If you're +3, you have a shot heading into the fourth quarter. Or if you're +2, I should say, you have a shot at getting to +3 sometime in the fourth quarter and perhaps stealing one in the shoe. Now, I'll come out with my prediction here in the coming days. Certainly, me saying that is not an indication that I'm picking the Hawkeyes. Last check, Ohio State, I think, was a 28-point favorite, which I believe is the biggest underdog line for Iowa since the year 2000. But can Iowa get to +3 in turnovers? +4 would be great, right? I don't know if that's possible, but they did it in 2017. Remember that. They did it in 2017 with Amani Hooker's pick 6 early and then 3 Josh Jackson interceptions. They're going to need somebody, whether it be Terry Roberts, Riley Moss, Cooper DeJean, to step up and have a Josh Jackson-esque game to have any chance to win this game in the Horseshoe. Saturday, big noon kickoff, 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox. I will be live with you Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Time for Hawkeye Hangout, and we'll have a special guest. Coach Don Patterson will join us during the show to preview Iowa, Ohio State. Join us this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central Time, right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.